Hi, Michael here, and in this video journal I'll be working on the necks for the Ambrosia Maple builds that I've been working on. I'll plane down the peghead, level the neck on the joiner, glue on the peghead overlay, and then trim the peghead overlay flush with the plane of the neck. I'll thin the peghead down on the bandsaw, then final sand it to its 9/16 of an inch on an oscillating spindle sander. Then I'll need to remark all my lines and get ready for the next steps. Keep watching.
I have one of the neck blanks mounted in my vise, and I want to smooth down this peghead portion first before I do the next step. Okay, I've got this plane down. All right. I've got the surface of the peghead smoothed down, and I want to go ahead and just smooth down the portion that's going to glue the fingerboard to on these neck blanks. I am just going to run this through. Clean up my lines and we'll go to the next step. So these are some neck blanks that I made previously. They're laminated up and they have a really nice way that the face plate here is actually looks like it's book matched with the grain running into each other. Helps eliminate twists and bows in the necks. If you want to see how these were made, that'll be a video journal number 14. I'll leave a link down below. But for now, it's time to get started on working on these necks. And I've selected a couple that I'm going to use for this build. This is one here that I've got attached to the bench. And I'm going to use the other one, will be this one here. The next step is going to be gluing on the peghead overlay. And the final dimension of this peghead is going to be 9/16 of an inch, which is basically what it is right now. However, I have not yet glued on the peghead overlay, which of course is going to add, a 1/16 or so of an inch to the top of the peghead. When I glue this together, I'm going to have to trim this overhang bit here down, which is going to add about 1/4 of an inch or so to the length of my neck. So that's going to move my fingerboard and my nut further up the neck blank. Okay, before I glue my peghead overlay on, the first thing I want to do is to mark some holes on it where they line up with my clamping caul. And so I'm just going to place the clamping caul on top. And I'm going to mark the position of those holes. And I'm going to take an engineer square here and clamp it to my neck blank. Slide my peghead overlay right up to it. Make sure that my center lines are together. And clamp it in place. I'm actually going to be using toothpicks to pin the ebony overlay to the neck blank so that it doesn't swim as I glue it on. And so I've chosen a number 44 numbered drill bit that will allow the toothpick to fit down in there fairly easily. I'm just going to drill some holes here all the way through. Okay. Got 2 toothpicks here. I'm just going to go ahead and snip them in half and put them down in those holes. Next, we'll just apply some glue. All right. Now I've got also a clamping caul that I've made that's going to fit on the bottom, and it's got a little curve here that's going to match the area where the volute comes to. And to start off with, I'm just going to position a little spring clamp there, and then just start putting some clamps on there. I'll just spend a little time cleaning up some glue squeeze out, and we'll wait till that dries. Well, the Peghead overlay is dried. I'm going to go ahead and take all the clamps off. Got the first Peghead overlay glued on. Now it's time to do the other one. The Peghead overlay is glued down now, and it's time to start trimming it down. I have a little lip right here, obviously where the Peghead overlay is intersecting to the top of the neck, so I need to carve that down. And I'm just going to put a little piece of cardboard stock here just to kind of protect my neck there. And just take a little hand plane and just Next, I'll just take this over to my sanding board and just kind of sand this down flush, and then I'll take it over to the joiner and join the whole top. Well, I've trimmed the overhang of the Peghead overlay down so it's flush with the base of the neck. And now I'm just going to sand it a little bit smooth so there's not any kind of a little bump here before I take it over to the joiner. And I've got just a sanding board that I've had made years ago, clamped to my workbench. It's just a really flat surface with some pieces of sandpaper attached to it. Okay, got that area flush right there with the top, and now I can take it over to the joiner and just really clean up this surface here. Now that I've gotten the Peghead overlay trimmed down a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and join this surface here where the fingerboard's going to go. Okay. Now that I've gotten the neck blanks with the Peghead overlay glued on and the surface where the fingerboard is going to be glued is all plain down smooth and everything, I want to go ahead and take my Peghead and thin it down real close, if not all the way to its final thickness, which is going to be 9/16 of an inch. Most of your machine heads that you'll be using on your guitars will take a 9/16 of an inch Peghead width. You can go up or down just a little bit, but 9/16 seems to be about the right distance there. I've gone ahead and set up my bandsaw and cut a little test board here just to see, and I'm slightly over 9/16 of an inch, which will give me enough to sand down any rough saw marks left by the bandsaw. So I'm going to take both of these necks over to the bandsaw. I've already marked my line, and just trim to about just before my volute to that 9/16 of an inch mark. I've set my bandsaw fence up to just over 9/16 of an inch, and I've run a test board through. I'm just going to go ahead and trim the back of this Peghead down. Okay, I have my peg head overlay glued on and trimmed down and sanded smooth, as is the neck where the fingerboard is going to go. Now I need to just trim down the thickness of my peg head to about 9/16 of an inch. I'm going to trim it a little bit proud so I can clean up any saw marks or any sanding marks left by my oscillating spindle sander here down to where it needs to be. Okay, with the neck blank now to the position where I've got the peg head thinned down to its 9/16 of an inch, sanded down smooth on the top, and my fingerboard gluing surface is all ready. It's time to start working on the next step. And first thing I want to do is go ahead and remark my peg head overlay position and the machine head holes up here where I sanded them away. So I'm just going to get my template back out. Next thing I want to do is go ahead and mark my nut width and the width of the fingerboard at the 14th fret. My nut is going to fit on this section of ebony right here that's on the same plane as the fingerboard and the neck. So now that I've got that there, I'll go ahead and make sure the line I have on there is correct position. The nut width on my guitars is a little bit wider, at least on the nut width on these couple of next builds, are a little bit wider than 1 3/4 of an inch.
My nut width is 1 25/32 of an inch.
It's a little wider, and although that's not much, you can definitely feel the difference. So 28.5 and 28.5. It's easier to see and mark in between two hash marks that are marking 32nds of an inch than it is to mark a 64th of an inch mark, which is really what it should be. Okay, so there we go. Now, 14th fret, I need to go ahead and mark my 14th fret location, just where the neck will join the body. And the easiest way to do that is just to take the fingerboards that I'm going to use and line up the center line here, where my nut's going to be. And just come down here to the 14th fret slot and mark it. Now the tenon is going to be 7/8 of an inch, but I'm going to go ahead and mark 1 inch to give myself a little bit of wiggle room when I come to that point. So for the tenon, I'm going to add 1 inch to that. And I'll just transfer those lines all the way around. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and at the 14th fret location mark the width of the neck there, which is 1 1/8, or actually 2 1/8, I'm sorry. And then 2 1/8, so I'm going to mark 1 1/16 out on either side of this line and connect my nut width to that line. Now, as long as I've got my ruler in that position, I'm going to take a small washer and I'm going to mark an outside red line, which will be my preliminary trim to line for the neck width. Well, that's it for this particular stage. The next thing I will do, I'll be transferring the neck angle that the body will join the neck to here at the 14th fret location and at my tenon, so that I can trim my tenon and drill my holes. Well, before I cut the neck to length and drill the holes for the barrel nuts, I want to go ahead and cut the slot for the truss rod. The next thing I need to do is to route the channel for my truss rod. And I use a double action truss rod like this one here, and it's a 1/4 inch wide, so I'm going to route a 1/4 inch slot. But I'm also going to put a piece of veneer over the slot, so I need to make sure that my depth will accommodate the truss rod and the piece of veneer. And I just have a little piece of wood that I've cut down to that appropriate thickness that I can use when I get ready to set my depth gauge. And make sure that my center line stays right underneath that point as I move my router. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a 1/4 inch downcut bit in my router and then set my depth gauge. I'm going to go ahead and set the depth by plunging the router down until it touches my workpiece, and then taking my shim that's the appropriate thickness and under my depth stop. Cut number 2. Well, the body's ready for the next step, and that's calculating the neck angle. So I have my neck ready for that particular process. I've got the Peghead overlay on, and the truss rod slot cut, and my marks for the fingerboard width, and my 14th fret and the tenon marked on the neck. So what I want to do now is make a mark that is 11 3/8 of an inch back from the very edge of the guitar, which is the 14th fret, which is where the guitar is going to join the body, and where the neck's going to join the body. And then I've got and I have this little sliding bevel that I've made that's long enough to span this distance. And right at the saddle location, I want this to be 3.5 millimeters, which it is right there. And then I want to make sure that I've got everything snug, and then go ahead and tighten this down. And this angle that I'm measuring here, I'm going to take and transfer over to my neck right here at the 14th fret location. So I'll take this and line it up there at the 14th fret and mark that line. I'm also going to mark it at the tenon line. Okay, now that I've gotten those angles marked on the neck, I want to drill holes for my barrel bolts. The barrel bolts holes are going to be 25/64 of an inch. And I have a little template here I've made. Okay, that ought to work. Okay, now I can take my little guide and slide it where I need it to be, and I've got the location of the 2 holes for my barrel bolts, and I want to slide those right up just shy of that line. And just going to make a little mark here, the center of that one, and this one down here, It is pretty good. I don't think I need to change that at all. And we'll walk yet. Okay, I have my 25/64 of an inch bit mounted up in my drill press. And I don't need to drill all the way through, just far enough that it'll go through the tenon when I get to the point where I'm cutting the tenon out. So, but I will bottom out this drill bit when I get there. All right, here we go.
Well, I'll stop this video journal here on the next part 1. Next time we'll continue on with working on the necks. Thanks so much for watching.